Rambam. We're in the 11th book. Wow. The laws, Niske Momen, the laws of property damage, right? So we're in chapter 9. When an animal that is pregnant causes damage, the sum of half of the damage may be expropriated from the mother and its offspring. So remember, an animal is there's two types of animals, tam and muad. Tam is a natural way of an animal, as opposed to the unnatural way. So for an animal, for an ox to gore, it's not normal for it to do it. But if it did it 3 times after 3 days, for example, we went into those details, then the animal is who's working here? I don't know, who is it? Where do you see? Where is it happening? Oh, yeah, downstairs where they're working in the kitchen, I think. Anyway, we'll get there. Okay, so so if it's a natural way for the animal to act, so then you pay full damages for any damage the animal did, your property did, right? But if it's unnatural, like goring for the first time for an ox, it doesn't do that, right? Then you only pay half of the damages, and it's only taken up to the value of the animal that did it, right? So now we have a pregnant animal that means got more value. So you can expropriate from the mother and the offspring. Okay? For the offsprings are considered as part of its body. It's not a separate entity, it's part of the body. When, by contrast, a chicken causes damage, the amount due may not be collected from its eggs. The rationality, the chicken's eggs are not considered part of the body, rather separate and distinct from it. So you can collect from the chicken up to, right, the value of what the chicken is and what the damage it did. So if it did $100 worth of damage and the chicken's only worth $10, you're only going to get $10 of damages. Yeah. Number 2, when a cow that is pregnant gored another cow, and the calf of the goring cow was found at its side, but it's not known whether it had given birth before it gored or not, the sum of half of the damage may be collected from the cow alone. So here we have a pregnant cow, it gored, but maybe it gave birth already, right? Maybe it gave birth already when it gored. We don't know. It's a bit of a problem here because it's based on witnesses, so not exactly clear. I guess, in other words, a person witnessed the goring, so you got got witnesses here, but wasn't certain that the cow was, what had yet given birth or not. So yeah, okay, that can happen, right? So now you sit, because we have a principle, right? Okay, so he says you can only take it from the cow and not from the pregnant cow, meaning that you can also take it now from the fact that it's born, right? Nothing may be collected from the calf unless the plaintiff can bring proof that it was pregnant when it gored. Right? The rationale is the person desires to expropriate money from a colleague, the burden of proof is upon him. Right? If it happened to me that my cow was killed by someone else's, the burden of proof is on me, then I have to prove that it was a pregnant cow. Because I want to expropriate money from you. So since you've got the money, meaning 9/10 of the law is possession, you've got the money, right? So his burden of proof is to take out money from you. Okay, number three, we've had that principle many times. Similarly, if a bull gores a pregnant cow and we find the calf stillborn at her side, and we do not know if she gave birth to the stillborn calf before it was gored, right? Or it gave birth to a stillborn calf because it was gored. We don't know that. The owner of the bull is required to pay only the damage of the cow and not the damage of the calf. Why? For when the person does appropriate money from a colleague, the burden of proof is upon him. Same principle. Now we're doing it the other way around, right? The one that was killed was the pregnant cow. And then we found, so we know that, yeah, my cow did it. But did my cow do it when she was pregnant or when she was already given birth? Okay. When an ox gores a pregnant cow and it causes it to miscarry, we do not evaluate the damage of the cow separately from the damage of the calf and the damage to the calf separately. And we obligate the owner of the ox for the total. Instead, we evaluate the worth of the cow when it was pregnant and healthy and compare it to the present worth of that of a body and that we compare it to the present worth. That's it. Yeah, in the office, in the office. Say in French, maybe. Instead, we evaluate the worth of the cow when it was pregnant and healthy and compare it to its present worth and that of the body of the fetus. The owner of the cow must pay the difference. If it was mu'at, and half the difference if it was tam. Hold on. Right. So here's another question. The ox gores the pregnant cow and causes it to miscarry, right? So we don't evaluate them as separate because she was carrying, right? Which means if they were separate values, there'd be more to have from a cow and a calf, right? We don't do that. Instead, we evaluate when it was pregnant and healthy and compare it to what it would be the body in a fetus, worth that of a body of the fetus, right? So if it was more, then the difference you'd have to pay because you have to pay for total damages. And if it's time, it'd be half. Okay. If the cow was owned by one person and the calf by another, the loss in the fat of the cow caused by the miscarriage is owed to the owner of the cow. The loss of the cow's bulk is divided between the owner and the cow. The owner of the cow and the owner of the calf. The carcass of the calf belongs to the owner of the calf. Wow. Two owners here. Uh-huh. Okay. Not exactly clear about the fat. In fact, it was more bulky, so it was, greater value itself for more. That's both the owner of the calf and the owner of the cow and the calf. But the fat, I'm not clear about. Okay, the following rules apply when one ox was pursuing another ox and one was damaged. If the owner of the ox that was damaged said, it was your ox that caused the damage, the owner of the ox said, no, I do not know. Perhaps it was damaged by a rock. The burden of proof is on the one who wishes exact payment. This ruling applies even though that one whose property was damaged states, I am certain that your ox caused the damage, and the other person says, I do not know. If the person whose property was damaged claims, you certainly know that your ox caused the damage. If his ox was muad and the other person was required to take a rabbinic oath that he does not know that the ox caused the damage. If, however, his ox was tam, he is not required to take a rabbinic oath. The rationale is that even if he admitted that his ox caused damage, he would not be liable, for the liability to have damages is a fine, and a person admits culpability for a fine when there are no witnesses is to obligate him is not liable. Wow. Okay. I don't know if you got that. Let me. So one ox is pursuing another ox, right? And there was damage. And then the owner of the damaged ox says, you caused the damage. So I don't know. Maybe the rock did. So maybe there's no witnesses here, right? So burden of proof is on the individual who wants to extract from, for his damaged ox. He'd have to bring the proof. And this would even apply if the property was damaged, one whose property says it's certain that I know that, that your ox caused the damage, and the other person, I don't know. Now, if the case was that the property that was damaged claims that you certainly know that your ox did the damage, and his ox happens to be muad, right? In other words, is a goring ox. So the other person is actually required to take a rabbinic oath that it's in saying, I don't, because he's saying, I don't know. So take a rabbinic oath that that's true what you're saying. If he was a Tom, though, then you wouldn't have to take a rabbinic oath. Because even if he would take an oath, since paying half of the value, right? For a Tom, you pay half of value. It's not because of damages. It's because it's a fine. And the principle is that if the fine was put upon you because of witnesses, then you have to pay the fine. But if you admit to what happened, then you don't have to pay the fine. Amazing. Okay, I have to stop here.